Hello and welcome to my deep dive into the Page of Cups. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Kate. I'm also known as the Daily Tarot Girl, and I am diving into the core cards one card at a time. And I have created a tarot court card cheat sheet for you to help you learn and understand the court cards. I'm going to put the link below if you want to download your own copy, but make sure you do that at some point because it's really going to help you. Okay, so we're diving into the Page of Cups. Now, the image that you see on your screen is from the Universal Waite Tarot. And I'm going to give you some keywords. We're going to talk about the personality of this card because I find that's the best way to understand the court cards, is to really get a sense of each court card's personality. And we're going to talk about what this card is like at a party, in relationships, at work, with money, etc. And I'm going to give you a few journaling questions at the end as well. So the suit of cups is all about emotions, feelings, and relationships. And the Page of Cups, he's a page, so he's a student, he's learning these things, he's figuring these things out. So there's a lot of trial and error happening with the pages. So think of the pages as being inexperienced, young, they're learning, they're growing, they're figuring things out. So to be a page is exciting. Everything is new, everything is fresh, everything is exciting. But at the same time, you're more prone to be naive and to stumble and make mistakes. So the Page of Cups, he's sensitive. I would even say he's kind of artsy-fartsy. He's free-spirited, and he loves a good romantic disaster. So he's a lot of fun. So the last card we talked about was the Page of Swords, and he is a little more somber. He's got a lot of issues going on. The Page of Cups is a lot of fun. So some keywords and personality traits to keep in mind with this card. The Page of Cups is creative, he's intuitive, he's artsy, he's sensitive, he's a little naive, but he is bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. He has a real zest for life. He feels emotions fully and strongly. But he also knows how to really go with the flow, and he's kind of happy to just sort of float along. This isn't the kind of person who has an agenda and has clear goals or a clear idea of what he wants out of life. He just wants to experience things and feel things, and he's more than happy to just kind of float along and go with the flow and see where the current takes him. He's a bit of a daydreamer. He's easily inspired and sees opportunities everywhere. He loves to express himself emotionally through the arts. And I'm saying he, when I talk about the pages, I think of them as like young boys, young men. But really the pages aren't really male or female, really. Like it could just be anyone who's young. So I'm just saying he because that's kind of how I think of the pages. But really, I would say, you know, the pages could be male or female or whatever. It's not so clear cut. So this page, the thing with the Page of Cups is his feelings shift and change like the tides. So in that sense, he's a little bit flaky, a little bit. His feelings shift and change. He's really confident despite his lack of experience and wisdom. So he doesn't have a lot of experience, he doesn't have a lot of wisdom, but he doesn't have the wisdom to know that he doesn't have all that wisdom. So he's super confident. He's learning how to be in a relationship, how to relate to others, how to connect with others on an emotional level. He's learning how to express his emotions, how to really tap into his creative and sensitive side. And he's learning how to manage his powerful emotions and feelings that tend to change from moment to moment. So that is his big challenge. Let's have a nice, clear, easy look at this card and break down some of the symbols on the card. So let's see. Okay, I gotta look at this card while I talk about it. So the first thing you're going to notice as you look at this card is the waves in the background, the rolling waves. And those waves represent a whole bunch of things. They can represent flow. Remember, Page of Cups, he really knows how to go with the flow. They can also represent instability, because think about the waves are kind of going up and down, up and down. They can also represent emotional depths and the unconscious. So think about the surface of the water and what's beneath. The color blue really features prominently on this card with the waves and with his outfit and his hat, and even the fish is blue. And again, I feel like that color blue kind of represents the unconscious, what is not yet conscious, and the depths, emotional depths. Then there's the fish in the cup, which I think is actually the most interesting symbol on this card. And this can represent inspiration. Like, just think about what would happen if you're holding a cup and all of a sudden a fish popped out of it. It's this like sudden idea, this sudden flash of inspiration, like a gift. It can also represent the imagination. And in some ways, this fish can be a messenger, can represent a message. So the Page of Cups, because he is intuitive, he's good at finding messages in things, seeing symbols, seeing the messages in things. And if you look at his posture, he's got the one hand on his hip, and he just is standing in kind of a cocky, confident way. And this is a great way to kind of describe the Page of Cups, is that he is quite confident in himself. He's kind of sure of himself, even though he probably shouldn't be. Now, his tunic that he's wearing has lotus flowers on it, and that is a very earthly symbol. And if you think of lotus flowers, they often will grow in the mud, so they can grow in the mud, but yet they flower and they're so beautiful. So that's another interesting symbol to consider on this card. And then he's wearing a fancy hat, and this kind of shows that he is probably upper class, or has, led a life of comfort. Maybe there's a lot of opportunities and privileges offered to him throughout his life. So he's had it easy. When I talked about the Page of Swords, I kind of made a reference in that video to the Page of Swords being like a foster kid who's, had kind of a rough start in life and has had this inherently unstable beginning and is trying to find his footing. Where the Page of Cups is kind of the exact opposite, in that he's probably had a very comfortable life and he's been afforded a lot of comforts and opportunities. Okay, so let's talk about the talents of this page. So one of my favorite things about this Page of Cups is that he finds inspiration in everyday life. He is in love with life itself. And he's so good at daydreaming. This is when he gets his best ideas. Now, remember when I said that he's not really focused, he doesn't really have an agenda, he doesn't really have any goals. He loves to just daydream, but often he'll get these really brilliant and creative ideas when he's in daydream mode. He can be quite psychic, and he can have some really powerful intuitive abilities. He's also artistic and he's creative, so he's good at things like acting, singing, writing, dancing, art. His creations make other people's hearts sing. And this is important to note, is that the Page of Cups brings a lot of joy and beauty to the world. So the things that he creates, the things that he does in life often really make others' hearts sing. He makes the world a more beautiful place. Now, if you were to encounter this page at a party, for example, he's often the life of the party. You can find him telling all kinds of wonderful stories and really captivating his audience. He knows how to captivate an audience. He's equally comfortable at large parties and in small groups or one-on-one interactions. He's very social and he's very comfortable in social settings. So he's not like, there's some creative types who are brilliantly creative, but they're kind of socially isolated. He's not like that. He's brilliantly creative, and he's also very social and outgoing. But he's also very sensitive, and he's good at reading the room. So he's good at kind of knowing his audience, picking up on others' reactions. He's surprisingly in tune with other people for being so young. So he's young, he's naive, he's inexperienced, but he does know how to like connect with others and pick up on their emotions and their, the vibes that they're putting out. When it comes to work and career, he's very dedicated to learning his craft. Whatever creative pursuit he chooses, he's dedicated to learning everything he can about it. He will quickly lose interest in work if he's unable to express his creative side. So he can do, uncreative jobs, but not for very long. He's not going to be that interested. He's not going to put much effort into jobs or careers where he can't be creative. He gets bored easily, and he will often have 2 or 3 different gigs going at any given time. So this is the kind of guy who will have a bunch of part-time jobs doing different kind of creative, unusual things. His artistic passions typically don't provide a lot of income to start with. So he might have jobs that are like sort of part-time service jobs, like a waiter or a bartender. He's very social and charming, so he's very good at these kinds of jobs. All right, I'm just gonna switch pages here. So when it comes to love and romance and relationships, this is where all the action happens. So this is where all the action happens with this page. So he is exceedingly romantic and charming, but he's really able to connect emotionally with others and like fully feel his feelings, but his feelings change like the tides. So he will like easily develop these really intense crushes on people, which inspire him creatively, and they will evaporate just as quick. So while he's in touch with his feelings, he's also eternally flummoxed by them because they change without him really realizing why. So he knows his feelings well, he's in touch with his feelings, but he doesn't know why he feels the way he feels or why his feelings change so quickly. So that really kind of confuses him. He has plenty of short-lived flings and romances over his lifetime. And despite his kind of emotionally flaky nature, he's on good terms with all of his exes. So he can have this mad, passionate, torrid affair, and then it can, all go up in flames, and, lead to a lot of heartbreak and drama. But he's always manages to remain on good terms with his exes in the end. He may be foolish in love, but he's always kind and respectful when it comes down to it. So there's rarely any bad blood afterwards. When it comes to money and finances, he's not great with money, mainly because he just doesn't really care about it. He wants freedom, not money. But having money can give him a certain kind of freedom, but he hasn't quite learned that yet. So he tends to be comfortable financially, usually due to the support of a well-to-do family or some sort of benefactor. So he may hook up with an older woman, an older mistress who finances his artsy lifestyle. He has a way of attracting benefactors and support from surprising places because he is just naturally charming, and he doesn't go out into the world trying to charm people to get money. He's not like that. He's just naturally charming, and people are drawn to him and they just want to finance his lifestyle if they're able to. Like, they just want to give him money for his outlandish creative projects because they just want to see him flourish. He thrives on being in a social environment like a university or like going to festivals or some kind of like communal living situation or like a theater group. He loves those kinds of environments. He loves an artsy environment with other creative people. He's not really insecure. He doesn't feel threatened by other creative people, so that's kind of nice. And he loves environments that are very open, very free, non-judgmental spaces. He loves to have the freedom to do as he wishes with few responsibilities. So that really helps him thrive. Some things that he can't stand, some things that really bother him. He can't stand feeling tied down or limited in any way. If he feels like he can't fully express himself, that he can't stand that. That's going to drive him crazy. If he feels like he's being forced to conform, or if he's given, rigid schedules or rigid rules, he's not going to like that. He's really going to suffer under those kind of circumstances. Now, what's interesting is the last video I did was on the Page of Swords, and for him, having kind of rigid structures and rules actually helps him feel stable and helps him thrive. But with the Page of Cups, he does not like that. And he also can't stand like really uptight, judgy people. So let's talk about his dark side. The dark side of the Page of Cups is that he can be kind of flaky. Like his feelings change from one moment to the next. And he ends up hurting a lot of romantic partners, but there's no malice in it. It's just that he'll be really into someone and he'll shower them with affection and then quickly lose interest, and it just fizzles really quickly. So he will sometimes like make promises that he really can't keep in romance. He flits around from one place to the next looking for inspiration. Now, if this is done once in a while, it's not a big deal, but if this is done too much, he can find himself constantly flitting around to different places, different people, just looking for that inspiration, because there's something about newness, like a new relationship or going to a new city or trying a new thing, that really inspires him and gives him energy, which is wonderful, but he can get addicted to that and constantly be chasing that. He gives up on projects and relationships and goals too quickly sometimes. So that's a big downside. He can be very unreliable, and he's kind of unaware of how his flakiness affects others. So he's a little bit naive to that. He has this daydreamy optimism that isn't really grounded in reality, which sometimes works for him. Like sometimes it's not a problem, but taken to the extreme, it can be a problem. This sort of daydreamy optimism that is just kind of pie in the sky and kind of ridiculous. All right, last sheet of notes here. Okay, so some ways to embody this card. Combining your love of learning with your creative or your intuitive side. Now, we didn't actually talk about the Page of Cups' intuitive side, so I should probably do that. But combining your love of learning, like think of the Page of Cups, he loves to learn, but he's also creative, he's intuitive. Combining those two things, like learning a new artistic skill, like writing, dance, art, learning the psychic arts, so tarot cards, tea leaf reading, palm reading, mediumship, other kinds of psychic skills. Spending an hour or two just daydreaming is a wonderful way to embody the energy of the Page of Cups. So just daydreaming for an hour or two and really indulging your imagination. Okay, and one thing I promised is I wanted to touch on the fact that this page he's very intuitive, he's very psychic. And so when this card comes up in a reading, you might be wondering, like, what does it mean? What is the message? What am I supposed to get from this card if it comes up in a reading? So it can be a message that inspiration is everywhere and to look everywhere. So if you're looking for inspiration and you want to kind of find that zest for life, it can be found anywhere. It can be a message to look at the world through the eyes of this page. So the fresh, young eyes of the Page of of Cups, to look at the world through that lens. When this card shows up in a reading, it can indicate kind of having your creativity sparked, and new ideas and new opportunities will flow from there. So if I'm doing a reading for someone and this card comes up, I usually focus in on creativity and getting ideas and inspiration for new creative projects. It can also be an invitation to get in touch with your feelings and your emotions and express yourself fearlessly, and to really fully engage your creative side. And it can also be an invitation to explore your psychic and intuitive side as well. So I'm going to give you 3 journaling questions. The journaling questions are fun, and it's a really powerful way to connect with this card on a personal level. So the first question is, and I'm going to post these questions below as well. The first question is, do you know anyone like this page? Who does this page remind you of? What aspects of this page do you relate to? Do you see yourself in this page at all? And what creative pursuits interest you the most right now? Is there a creative pursuit or some kind of artistic thing that is really piquing your interest right now or calling out to you? All right, so that has been my deep dive into the Page of Cups. So please leave me a comment below. Let me know what you thought. Is this a card that you enjoy, don't enjoy? Is this a card that you can easily relate to? Did you learn anything new? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to download your court card cheat sheet. I'm going to put the link below as well. And like and subscribe. I post these videos. Well, I was doing them weekly. It's not quite weekly, but I post these videos somewhat regularly. So thank you so much for watching, and happy tarot reading.